Okay, so I'm at Essen 2017. Dice Tower is rigging up the booth, and this time I'm going to ask designers a couple of questions. So, the questions are, which game inspired you to become a board game designer as a profession, or something like that? And the one that is maybe the hardest one to answer is, what is the harshest critic you received on any game you made? So I'm looking forward to the answers I receive. I hope they will be good, but hopefully there won't be too many of the harshest critics, because who wants that? But it might be fun. So, without further ado, here we go.
At the beginning, I just knew basic classic games like chess, Go, Othello, and the other games like Monopoly, Clue, etc. didn't excite me so much. But when I was 20, I discovered there was a life after Monopoly. That means that I played for the first time a game which was named Fief, which is still published today, and it was fantastic for me, really. And I discovered that there were game designers. I had no idea of that before. Never imagined that people were creating these games. And this game was published because the designer won a game design contest. And at this time I promised myself that one day I will create my own games. But I had no idea what to do. So for years I've been only a gamer, buying games, analyzing them, learning the rules, teaching the rules to my friends, and year after year, this gives me more materials in my head, more knowledge, to be able one day to create my first game.
It was actually Carcassonne from Klaus Jürgen Brede and Hans Glick that made me discover the world of board games, and I wanted to design myself.
So it was about either 2000 or 2001. I was at a small convention in the US in New Jersey, and I was just getting into games, into modern games. I had played games like Ogre and Illuminati, so I was familiar with games that went beyond Monopoly, but I had never played a Euro before. And I'm wandering around looking for a game, and somebody comes up to me and he says, "Do you want to try this brand new game? You're gonna love it. It's awesome. It's called Puerto Rico." I'm like, that sounds really boring, but sure, I'll sit down and try it. And 2 hours later, I was in love, absolutely in love. I never thought a game could do what it did. You know, you didn't have to attack players, you didn't have to backstab players, but it was all about your strategy, and it was all about managing your resources, and it felt amazing. So that game, more than any other, I think, pushed me in the direction that I'm in now.
I did for a joke a party game called Machina. It was a machine in English, would be. And it was just a joke. I haven't played board games back then. It was just a stupid joke. It was very popular among my friends. I decided to publish it. It became very popular in Poland, and I said, wow, this is very interesting. And I started to learn about the board games. So I started without knowing board games. And when I did it, my first games, there was a Citadels, mind-blowing for me, Kingdoms from Tunisia, mind-blowing. And I started to learning more and more and more games. And then suddenly I became a game designer. But basically the first impulse was out of the blue, just a game, a party game, and then I said, this is interesting, I want to learn more. And then Citadels, Kingdoms, and many other games.
Well, that's hard to say. I've been playing games all my life, but I think what inspired me was, at least, I'm not that fond of honest work, you know, hard honest work, and that's an important inspiration. And also I love working with games. I think it's a very colorful and varied business. So
I always used to enjoy playing games. You know, even when I was a kid, I used to play lots and lots of games. I played role-playing games, played war games. So I always interested in games. I don't actually remember what made me think I'd be a game designer. I just remember one day I decided that it's something that I'd like to have a go at. And I wasn't that young then. I think I was about 29. Okay. So, and then for some reason I just decided this is something I want to have a go at, of just designing games. I mean, this is back in 1989, 1990, so it's a long time before
Yeah, the Revolution.
Revolution, yeah. So long time before Kickstarter or anything else like that. So in those days, there are very few games around. There are very, German games were only just beginning to appear in the British hobby scene, but they were very much underground, under the radar. But no, I don't. Maybe it's just a feeling. Maybe. I don't know, just something weird going on there, making me think, hey, I'd like to be a game designer. Plus, I was hoping, my dream was always to become a full-time game designer so that I could give up the day job.
Yeah.
Because I used to be a teacher and I never really enjoyed teaching that much. So the dream was always to be a full-time game designer, and now I'm there.
There are some moments where I think, okay, game designing is perhaps something I can do often in my life, but I'm living with making games. The first games I make when I'm 12, and what was the point where I said I'm a professional? This was not really a point. I made more and more games, and sometimes there was a little bit success then, but I'm growing into being a professional. I cannot say since the year 2000 I'm a professional. It's a process, yes. While I studied, when I make a final test in this studying, then I prepare to it. After that, I make a game. And then I prepare to the next test, and I make a game. And so I spent 3 years, and I have a lot of fun. I had fun to make tests, and I had fun to make games. And so it was nice to do everything, every time the thing I have done before not. It's going.
I have nothing from reviewers, I think, but I've seen some ratings and some comments on the games, and I think there was some comment on Avenue that I think he gave a 2 in rating or something and said, "Screw this game." So
that's not so bad.
Screw this game. I don't know.
Okay, I'm going to fudge this a little. I'm not going to talk about my games. I'm going to talk about. I studied creative writing when I was in college. So I'll tell you about the harshest criticism I received when I was a writing student, because I feel like that was a big influence in helping me as a designer. So I'm in college. I'm part of a literary magazine. So we accept submissions from students at my college, and of short stories, and we read through them all, and we say yes or no at the end. We write down yes or no and our initials. Fine. Of course, we usually editorialize. We're like know-it-all jerks because we're college students. But the editor of the magazine was abroad in Amsterdam, in Maastricht, and she came back one semester, and she was very excited about coming back. And everybody was excited to see her again because she was very, very respected. So she comes back and she picks up my story, like the one that I wrote that I'm really proud of. And I see her read the first page. I'm like, oh my God, this hero of the magazine is reading my story. I'm so excited. So I see her read the first page. She turns the page. She reads the second page. She turns the page. She glances at the third page, skims the fourth page, jumps to the end, writes pathetic and her initials, and tosses it onto the pile. And that really taught me thick skin, like the value of thick skin and separating criticism of my work from criticism of me. And I think that's a really important skill that all designers need to have.
In fact, you have to be open to criticism, because when you decide to push yourself in front of a scene, never mind which scene it is, you have to accept that some people like and some people dislike. Yeah. But what I don't like with comments is when there is no comments at all. Never mind if it's, yes, this game is fantastic, okay, it's okay, but it doesn't help me. This game is shit, it doesn't help me. I like reading both good and bad reviews when people dislike, but when they say why. And I like when they say, for me, I don't like this. I hate when people say this is not good.
Yeah.
This, because that means that they belong the truth, and there is absolutely no truth. So I prefer when people speak personally, explain what they like or dislike, and this helps me to keep that in consideration in my next designs, etc.
Exactly.
And the worst I had is the problem we had with Five Tribes, when people were complaining about slaves in the game. This was incredible for me.
Yeah.
It's a game about how do we say, Arabian Nights, etc. It's not a true story, and in all these stories you have slaves. So
Yeah,
it was not promoting slavery for sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not a real world.
So the case is that each designer, I mean, I assume each designer has 100% faith and hope that his game is amazing. So watching somebody criticizing your game is not super nice. And you always disagree with him because you know that you have amazing game, because you are so smart. Yeah. So basically, on a serious note, I don't watch reviews of my games because it's only frustrating and pissing me off. I do it when we start preparing for the second edition. And then if we know that we have to fix some issues, then I do a research and I watch every single review, I read every single review, I go to the forums, see what people were saying, because I'm preparing for the second edition. But right now, for example, we just released the alien artifacts or released First Nations. I don't watch these reviews, like, because I don't want to hear somebody telling that the game is stupid when I know that it's amazing, right? So yes, I will watch reviews later, when I have to start to change the game. Right now, I did my best, and I don't need to see somebody talking about the game.
Harshest critic? I can't think of one specific critic, but it's the worst is it's very frustrating when someone says something that I know it's not true about my game. Or if someone says it's all luck or something, and I know that I could beat you any day in this game. And also it's quite harsh comment when someone says, "Oh, this is a good game for a Norwegian game," or something.
Yeah.
Oh God! I try not to remember the negative comments, but I don't know. I can't remember anything specifically. Obviously, now that games are rated on Board Game Geek, yes, it can be rather painful when somebody dismisses your game out of hand. I think in general, the kind of criticism that I find annoying is when people don't understand the purpose of the game. I mean, for instance, take a game like Discworld. There are a number of people who are very critical of Discworld because they say, "Oh, it's too light, too simple, there's nothing there." And it's like, well, you're missing the point. The whole point was it's designed to appeal to a wider market. It's designed to appeal to people who are not gamers. Yeah. So you're criticizing it because it doesn't meet your criteria for what constitutes a game, but you're missing the point that from a designer's point of view, you are looking at your audience. Okay, you know, and with that, you know, you're looking at a different audience than your core gamers, and it's like, but some people don't seem to be able to distinguish between that. They don't seem to be able to look at a game and say, okay, this isn't aimed at me, but for what it, but for what it does what it does well for the audience that it's aimed at.
It's going mean when it gets personal.
Yeah.
And every time when the people write about games, perhaps they say that in every case it is not good. Okay, so perhaps it's a problem, but everybody has the right to say I don't like this component on the game, and this is never mean. It's getting mean when the people say something about my person. The people who write some things say more about themselves than about me.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, I'm back in Norway, and honestly I was a bit too tired to actually make an ending video for while being in Essen. But I want to thank you to all designers who answered these questions, and after the interview was over, I got into a very nice discussions with all of them. It turns out they are many things to be said about harsh criticism. Not only saying the game is bad, but personal attacks against the designer as well. So it's very interesting for me, and I hope it's been interesting for you as well to see these answers that are on camera at least. Okay, thank you for watching, and if you're going to Essen next year, maybe we'll see you. Bye.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.